Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a live episode of Lombardi Time Brews. We're here. We figured we would just hop on a little bit today, not too long, but just a little bit, answer some questions. We can go over the debacle that occurred. Mostly good game, but yeah, there were certainly debacle moments against the Atlanta Falcons last week. But we're also looking ahead to this coming Sunday, a noon Sunday game. First game at Lambeau, the home opener, Packers versus Saints, getting ready for week 3. So hello to everyone out there. It is nice to see you again. Kind of short notice for this one. I put it in yesterday's video. We'd be doing this today, but we did want to hop on sometime this week and make sure that we checked in with everybody, see how everybody's doing, see how everybody's feeling following the loss of the Falcons and looking ahead to the game against the Saints. You know, just going over the news of the day, Aaron Jones is back at practice today. He actually fully practiced. From those who were there, they said that he actually looked quite good. Other than that, there was Christian Watson. Watson did not practice today. And that kind of caused a panic to start. But in his press conference post-practice, Matt LaFleur said that was actually part of the plan, that they were going to run out Watson yesterday and then give him today off to see how his body responded to yesterday. And that they were anticipating that he would still be back out there tomorrow for practice again, even though tomorrow is a little bit of a lighter practice. So news that bodes well for both Jones and Watson. Kind of for Watson at least, but still, at the very least, good news for Jones. On the Saints side of things, I'll be covering all of this a lot more tomorrow in the Packers-Saints pregame show. But ultimately, the Saints have lost their starting safety, Marcus May. He's out for a number of games now with a suspension. And they also have another suspension, Alvin Kamara facing his last game from his suspension from an incident that occurred at last year's Pro Bowl. So the Packers, very luckily, frankly, don't have to face Kamara on Sunday. They historically have not exactly done great against Alvin Kamara, so that bodes well for the Green Bay Packers, as well as in turn, hopefully the Packers' own run game gets better as well. You know, I was discussing earlier with the many injuries to the offensive line, how should the offensive game plan change? Are they still going to trot out a run-heavy game plan? You know, especially if David Bakhtiari is out again from left tackle. And as I said in yesterday's video, MJ Hurley, who is a reporter, podcaster type on Twitter, he put out that according to his sources, David Bakhtiari was expected to miss the game on Sunday. Now, I haven't seen that confirmed anywhere else, and I haven't followed Hurley for long, but you know, I hate to just like dispel people automatically. I know he's been around for at least a little bit, so got to give it some credence, but you know, we'll see. Is David Bakhtiari actually going to play on Sunday or not? But if he doesn't, paired with an injury to Elton Jenkins, that is some massive reshuffling that's going to occur on the Packers offensive line. And in turn, I think the offensive game plan actually has to change to match those changes on the line. Zach Tom, quite possibly, even though I don't love it, quite possibly is going to be kicked inside, which would change things. And in addition to that, which side does Walker go on? If Bakhtiari's not there, does Walker then go to the right if Tom is inside? And then does Yash play left? Like, so many changes that is going to change the Packers game plan. And as I mentioned with Connie in the comments in yesterday's video, I think that means go with more pass heavy, because one thing that's been missing thus far has been the short passing attack of the Packers. It's just looking at the advanced numbers. Love has been airing it out down the field occasionally, a ton of intermediate stuff, but then not a lot short. And maybe those quick short passes pretty necessary given the offensive line changes and the struggles thus far in the run game, specifically run blocking for the offensive line. So lots of things going on as Packers get ready for Saints. I haven't seen anyone in the comments yet, so if you're here, just say hi. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. I know 3 o'clock isn't exactly our typical time to go live and answer questions, but it is what worked best in our life this week. So here we are. You know, one thing that I'm also really looking forward to in this game is seeing Jordan Love against what many consider to be a significantly more legitimate uh, defense. Hey, Jonathan, nice to see you there. Hello. The Saints defense is stacked. I mean, it is. I'll have the exact stat tomorrow, but they've got something silly dating back to last year, like 9 games in a row that they've held opponent offenses under 20 points. It is one of the best coached defenses in the NFL, and they have talent at every level. Like they've got the Honey Badger in the secondary, Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary. I know May's not there for this game, but still, Mario Davis at linebacker. I mean, it's a very talented defense, and certainly the toughest one that the Packers are going against so far in this early season. Week 1 was the Bears, which
for the Bears.
Yeah, and you've been following the news with the Bears. What the freak is going on in Chicago right now? Like their defensive coordinator resigning yesterday after having not been in the building for 3 days. And then like yesterday there was this big rumor that like Hallis Hall got raided by the FBI yesterday for him, which like since has been completely and utterly like stomped on. Like the Bears, NFL Network, everyone came out and said like, no, that's not true. But no one has denied that like they raided his house. Like, I don't know, just a lot going on in Chicago. So anyway, we faced that defense, and then we also faced Atlanta's defense, which is an above average defense, certainly. And we saw how it does. But, New Orleans is the best defense that Jordan Love will have faced, at least in his 10 years QB1 thus far. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Packers adapt to that and to see what changes are in place. I'm excited to dive into it tomorrow. Steve is real. Yeah. Hi, Steve. I hope you're doing well. So, hope everyone's having a great Thursday. I already talked offense a little bit. We know that the offense is going to be changing gears a lot. Like, let's say Christian Watson's back in the game. That's going to lead to offensive philosophical changes. If Aaron Jones is back, that's going to lead to changes. If the offensive line is decimated, it's good. You get where I'm going, right? Like lots of changes. Defensively, though, this is the first game of the year that I think it doesn't make as much sense to utilize more of a zone approach. I talked about with Chicago, you're going against a very mobile quarterback. So it makes sense to back up the zone, like keep everything in front of you. Atlanta with Bijan and Ritter, and yeah, we saw it. Like, they did not keep Atlanta in front of them all the time, and they paid for it. New Orleans doesn't have the same reputation offensively. It doesn't have the same skill set as Atlanta and Chicago. Derek Carr is not at all in the mold of a mobile quarterback. At running back, Jamal Williams, former Packer, probably going to miss the game. Then they're going to be relying on the backup who came in last week. They're going to be relying on a rookie. Taysom Hill is still there playing everything from quarterback to tight end. I think he just hasn't played tackle for them yet offensively. So he's still there. But none of those guys really kind of encapsulate the quick twitch speed of Atlanta with Bijan or Chicago with Justin Fields. Plus, receiver-wise, sure, they've got Olave, they've got Michael Thomas, then they've got this like reincarnated Jimmy Graham type. So I think defensively, this is one game that if you're Joe Barry and company, you can look at it and assess it a little differently and say, all right, this is the game to get aggressive, to play man coverage, to utilize our corners in a different way than we've seen before. I think this is the appropriate game to switch it up, to actually utilize man, and to get after the Saints a little bit more.
Hey, Brandy. We got Brandy saying, do you think the D-line is being rotated a little too much?
Not really. I think I know where you're coming from with it, but I would say the big example that I look at is probably one guy who's not being rotated much for at all is Kenny Clark. I think it was in the Atlanta game. He actually had totaled over 60 snaps played, which is like just too high of a number for Kenny Clark and his size body. So in that way for Kenny, no, he's obviously not being rotated too much. For everybody else, it's kind of tough to say. I mean, Kobe Wooden has done some nice work, but there's no way he should be in there as an interior run defender on second and short And yet occasionally the Packers have found themselves in that spot because they've rotated guys in. So I very much understand what you're saying. I don't know as if it's a problem of rotating too much, as they just need to improve what personnel is out there and when they are subbing per the game situation, because they really have gotten caught a few times not anticipating well what the offense is going to march out with. And then that's also how you wind up with Devondre Campbell on Bijan on 3rd and 3 and Campbell's 8 yards off. It's just because they didn't anticipate well enough. And Devondre, in that one particular circumstance, Devondre Campbell was assigned man coverage for Bijan. And then when Bijan split out wide, he followed Bijan out wide. And the Packers just didn't really do anything about it. They just kind of let it happen. I think D-line is much in the same circumstances, that they're rotating and then they get caught kind of with their pants around their ankles because they're not anticipating well enough. And Kobe Wooden gets caught in spots where he's interior against run game, and it's rough. So I don't know as if it's too much rotation. I think it's just inappropriate subbing is probably what I would prescribe that with to this point. I know some people here watch a lot of Andy Herman and Justice Mosqueda, who they did a joint podcast earlier this week. And I know Justice mentioned that Jerry Montgomery seems to be one coach who has escaped in a lot of ways, a lot of a different accountability for coaches. And he's been here since McCarthy, and he's lasted a while in Green Bay. And I know a lot of players love him, but nonetheless, what have we seen the defensive line really play above its projected aptitude? Feels like most years it actually comes in beneath its aptitude. And so I thought that was a very, very interesting point. And I wonder if some conversations about that and what the defensive line is doing actually need to start occurring a little bit more. So I am really excited for this game on Sunday. I know Matt LaFleur mentioned it in his press conference yesterday. There just is no better sports venue than Lambeau Field. There's just not. And I mean, it is beautiful, first of all. Then you've got the history, the tradition, right? And I thought it was really cool. LaFleur even mentioned that he felt that way even before he got a job with the Packers. And so it's one thing to look forward to. Lambeau at noon when the sun is shining across the gold helmets. It's a neat place. There's no doubt about it. So Freddie's saying that he agrees with Brandy. That's good. And Brandy saying, how is Nixon doing in the slot? I see a solid player, but nothing to write home about. Yeah, that's exactly it, Brandy. The thing is, last year, he played for a stretch like an above average slot. Played very well for a stretch of games. I think it was 5 or 6 games off the top of my head. And then, but the rest of his play all year was very up and down. And I think that's what we're seeing is truly his norm. I think the Packers were relying on that he could grow into that 5-6 game stretch is the new norm. But what we're seeing is a lot of up and down play. His tackling has been massively inconsistent. Against Chicago, I know he had one highlight reel tackle, but if I'm remembering the stats correctly, he was actually one of the leaders in missed tackles against Chicago as well. So he's kind of an all or nothing tackler in some ways. And then in terms of coverage, there was the one play again against Chicago that Mooney scored the touchdown on Nixon. He didn't have as many standout negatives against Atlanta, but also nothing incredible either. And I think that's just kind of what he is as a corner at this point. I think you hit it on the head. There's just not a lot to write home about. He's very up and down, very matchup dependent. And I wonder how that role is going to change. One, when Stokes returns, but two, if Carrington Valentine behind the scenes is continuing to learn more slot, I don't wonder if we're going to start seeing some slot rotations begin to take place.
Steve saying Lambeau Field is the #1 stadium in all of sports.
Oh, it is. It's the cathedral, right? And there are some photos out there too that if you find the right photo, sometimes I use them as the backgrounds of thumbnails. I think I did even today, where the sun is like shining through a cloud, and then you see the rays just come down over the G. Like, it's like, come on, there's just nothing better. Like, Lambeau's just beautiful in every way.
Steven saying not so much their run game, but their passing game and receivers. Wow, I'd like to see them LVN in on a couple of packages to add more pressure either inside and a stunt.
Yeah, LVN is going to be really interesting. So he's practiced all week in a limited capacity, and he's got I haven't seen. I saw what he wore in the one snap he came back for last week. I haven't seen many practice photos though. But like, he's got a brace, he's got a sleeve on that elbow. So I'm very curious to see with him logging limited practices. Are they going to be more selective when they use him? Because the real shame of it is already to this point, through basically like a game and 3 quarters, that he's one of their better run defending edge players already. Like, he's better at it than Kingsley. Preston isn't doing the job that he's customarily done at setting the edge. Rashawn had a very difficult time in Atlanta setting the edge. Rough. So LVN's already one of their better ones. And I agree. I would like to see him kick it inside occasionally. So I wonder if he's going to be on a snap count against New Orleans, or they're going to be more selective in his utilization just to give him some time coming back from that elbow.
Steve, I think and believe Emmanuel Wilson should play more. 5'11", 226 with great speed and power, and is elusive. We saw that in preseason for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was the NFL's leading rusher at preseason. But the thing is with Emmanuel Wilson, like, okay, I'm going to say this first. First of all, I support Emmanuel Wilson getting more run, especially with A.J. Dillon playing how he's played as of recent, which isn't exactly spectacular. Play Wilson. Why not see what you have there a little bit more, right? But there is one negative to Emmanuel Wilson, and we have seen it. Emmanuel Wilson got most of his preseason yards in the second half of preseason games, which, as we all know, it generally comes against depth players. In the Seattle preseason game, when he actually had snaps against the first-string defense, he struggled. And anytime that we've seen him thus far in the regular season, he has struggled. Now, granted, that's not many chances. I know. And I'm not saying that I don't want to give more chances. I'm just saying that is obviously the caution, right? He came from a tiny little school, and he's got all the athletic traits that you want to see in a UDFA running back that could be like this gem in the rough, right? But anytime he's gotten chances so far against starters, it hasn't looked like the same guy. So I want to see him get those chances, but I don't think it's necessarily wise for Green Bay to anticipate that he's going to be this amazing back against everyone at this point. So just a little word of caution there. Steven's saying, and add Ballantyne for pickoff chances. Corey Ballantyne is on the practice squad. So it's possible. Lately, the first 2 games of the year, they've elevated Ennis Gaines at the cornerback position. Ballantyne has yet to be elevated, but his time could very well be coming, especially with Gaines only having 1 elevation from the practice squad left, and then them having to put him on the 53 or remain on practice squad all year long.
Jonathan asking, how can we convince A.J. Dillon that he's a rookie starting against the Titans again?
I don't know, man. Put snow on the ground. Like, that seemed to work in that game. And his numbers do improve. Like, the colder it gets, the better he gets. I have dove into a number of the theories out there around A.J. Dillon. Like, did he add weight in his ankles and it's thrown off his center of gravity? Is it a matter of he's focused too much on his Twitch stream and not enough on football now? Like, I've tried to read them all. I don't know. The thing is, they have not done him any favors in their play calling. There have been times where they've tried to use him like Aaron Jones, which is a terrible mistake. There have been times too, like Matt LaFleur mentioned, the specific play where they called a halfback toss into a nickel edge pressure. Well, like, yeah, 90% of running backs at least are going to completely and utterly fail when they're running into a wall of pressure coming off the edge, right? But still, like, the man is 250 pounds. I don't know. It's really hard to say what actually is going on there. One thing for sure, like we can say with absolute certainty, is he just loses his footing too much. And whether that's attributed to his running technique, I don't wonder too if it's partly like they've gotten on him so much lately that he needs to lower his pad height. Is it like, is he throwing off his own center of gravity now because he's trying to listen too much to what the coaches are doing? I don't know. And the Packers don't seem to have a complete answer either. So something to keep in mind, watch for. We just have to hope that he improves in order to be the dynamic duo of running backs that we know the Packers have needed.
Brandy's saying Love had a drive versus the Falcons that was methodical and deliberate. After that drive, I thought that Love is the real deal. Have you seen that from Love yet?
Yeah, I agree totally, Brandy. There is one thing that I want to see from Jordan Love yet, and that is consistency on the deep ball. And that's it. Like, there are too many throws, and I don't mean like 50 yards deep, like deep ball. I mean, even some of his 25 yarders wind up sailing over the heads of receivers. That seems to be the sticking point for Love yet. He does so much so well. Like, I know the QB school talked about this week about him like pointing a safety or like literally pointing at a safety in order to deceive him about the play call that was coming in, or Dan Orlovsky talking about what Love's eyes have been doing. So he does so much so well. And yet every so often there's a throw that's just off kilter, off the mark. And it's not even when he's necessarily like throwing on the run or anything like that. It's just when he's there. So that is the one thing that I want to see a little bit more consistency from before we can say, yep, he's arrived for sure. Get the contract extension in now before it gets more expensive. But everything else, like, we're heading in the right direction for sure.
Andrew saying, dude, the film is ookie dookie. Okay,
okie dokie? I'm thinking okie dokie. What you talking about, Andrew? Are you talking about Us film? Because I don't know. She looks good. Nixon? Dylan? I don't know. Let me know, Andrew.
Brandy saying Patrick Taylor has one elevation left as well. That will be an interesting choice the Packers make regarding him.
Yeah. You're thinking ahead, aren't you, Brandy? He does have one elevation left. Are they going to move on from Emmanuel Wilson because they're more comfortable at this point of the season that no one is going to claim him and put Taylor on the 53? Are they going to put Taylor on the 53 and just ride with 4 running backs for a while? Might there be an injury that sticks someone on IR and then the Packers don't have to worry about it for a stretch because they get an extra roster spot? It's true. Patrick Taylor has one spot remaining, one elevation remaining before they have to do something with his roster status if they ever want to get him in a game again. And what that decision is going to be is coming. I have a feeling, regardless of Jones's status, we'll probably see Taylor elevated again this week, which is going to give him all 3, and then decision time. We're there. I have a feeling that they're going to find a way to stick him on the 53 so that they can continue to use him. They don't seem comfortable yet at this point not using him. So I think they're going to find a way to stick him on the 53. It's just, it'll be IR or letting someone go that hasn't played yet or something like that.
Freddie's saying, I thought Dylan was going to be Brandon Jacobs 2.0.
Yeah, if only he could pass protect like him. I mean, Dylan's not bad at pass pro, but Brandon Jacobs, my bad. I read that wrong. I thought you said Brandon Jackson. Yeah, no, in terms of Brandon Jacobs, the old Giants bruiser, that's kind of what Dylan should have been, right? And he still could be. Like, it's still only year 4 in his career. It's not like he's dying. But Jacobs was that guy for the Giants. I mean, he had several big games where he was just plowing through dudes, right? And that's just what we haven't seen from Dylan. It should be. It should be what we see from Dylan. And that's the frustrating part. But it's just not there. It's just not there.
Steve saying Love is awesome and I'm so excited for him. One thing that I don't think anyone knows is that Love's father committed suicide when Love was a young kid. Love, he's a Packer and wish him greatness. Wow. Yeah, I did not know that.
Dang, I didn't know that either. Well, way to bring it down, Steve.
Right?
No, the thing that I have really appreciated about Jordan Love thus far is, and this isn't meant as a knock on the former QB1, even though it could very easily be perceived that way. I just really like the reliability of watching him on the field. I'm not worrying about whether he's getting angry at someone or off the field when he's doing a press conference. Jordan Love's press conferences are some of the most boring press conferences ever. And good. They should be.
We've had enough of the drama.
Yeah, you don't need your quarterback week in and week out saying something that becomes a headline. Ask the Bears how that's going for them with Justin Fields essentially accidentally throwing the coaches under the bus. Like, we don't need that. And it is incredibly refreshing to see Jordan Love, this young quarterback, handle himself so well in so many ways. I know the word that's used with him all the time is poise, right? And he's an incredibly poised, composed. He doesn't give you the massive mood swings of ups and downs. Like he's just kind of there. And he just wants to be good.
No disappointing head shake after every.
Yeah, it is wonderfully refreshing, and goodness knows we're hoping the best for him.
Brandy's saying, did you see Wicks playing this well? I did not, and I'm glad to see him step up.
Not this quick. No, I thought, coming out of college, he had the ability to do this. But I mean, honestly, I didn't see him getting this much playing time early. Obviously, no one did. But you knew coming out of college that the run blocking was proficient. He was good there. You knew that even though he didn't have the best speed, he was very adept at going down and getting a deep ball. So all the traits were there, but I thought that they would take some time to develop. It's not like his last year in college was terrific statistically. That was much more his junior year. So did I see this coming this early? No. He is showing all of the traits that I expected, just not in week 2 of rookie year. So that's a bonus as far as I'm concerned.
Andrew just bought that Danbury mint thing you have behind you.
Oh yeah, the 1966 Packers. Absolutely one of my favorite things, right? I mean, it's steep. I hope you got a good deal on it, but yeah, one of the favorite things that I own. The detail on it is absurdly cool. So, hey, kind of on this topic, if you happen to be in the Green Bay area, I think I'm pointing to him correctly. Yeah, that one. Jerry Kramer is actually doing a talk at Lambeau this coming Tuesday. You got to buy tickets for it, but he's doing like a live Q&A. It's hosted by Wayne Larrivee, and then if you do like the VIP package, you can meet him, get a picture, do an autograph with him afterwards. So, like, if you're in the Green Bay area and you're interested in like that era of Packerdom, Jerry Kramer, sad to say, but he's one of the last ones left. Really, really cool event that they're bringing him in for. So just thought I would throw out a little plug for the Packer Hall of Fame there. Not yet sponsored. If anyone knows the Packer Hall of Fame, give me a call. But yeah, isn't that a cool piece, Andrew? Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Brandy asking, is Josh Myers the long-term answer at center?
If he learns how to run block. The snapping thing feels so like fluky. He hasn't had that problem before in his career. I think it's much more related to like him and Love working together. I think it's more related to that than it is like Josh Myers just forgot how to snap a football. And he last year did prove to be an above average pass blocker from the center position. I mean, I think he finished like 8th in pass blocking efficiency last year. He's above average in that regard. Run blocking is where he's still very much on the struggle bus. And if he can improve, if his competency at run blocking can match that of his pass blocking, then we could really be cooking with something. If he continues to be deficient there, then no. I think his rookie contract may be the duration of his tenure.
Steve saying, I was so excited when we drafted Wicks. When we drafted him, I wanted to make 2 backflips, but can't, got bad knees. Sorry, Steve.
I understand, Steve. I understand. Yeah, Wicks is a really cool a really exciting prospect. One of those who, like, Goot did this thing this year where he prioritized getting value in the draft of guys that didn't necessarily perform last year, but had monstrous seasons in 2021. I mean, Wicks fixed that. Jaden Reed had a better season in 21. Luke Musgrave, even, who barely played in 22. Like, Goot has found this, I'm going to go for those disappointments in some of the later rounds. Yeah, Carlson, who was amazing in 2020 and then had 2 rough and injury-riddled years as a kicker at Auburn. So, Goot's kind of found this tendency in the later rounds of plucking these guys who've shown great potential at least once, even if it wasn't last year. Wicks fit the bill. Really, that's a nice little bonus for them as the 4th wide receiver to see how Wicks continues to come along. So, with that, we are going to go pick up a child, and it's time for us to get going. But thanks for joining us here on Lombardi Time Brews. Thanks for answering or questioning some questions, giving us some stuff to answer. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Be on the lookout tomorrow. Gonna get out that Saints and Packers preview show tomorrow. That'll be a little later because I got to wait for the injury designations to get released by the Packers. So look for that late afternoon into the evening. And then Sunday, watch party for Packers versus Saints. Hope everyone has a great weekend, night, whatever, till I see you again. Thanks so much for joining here. And as always, go Pack, go.